I've just seen reports on Twitter that there was a Downing Street Christmas party on Friday night. Do you recognise those reports?
I went home. Hold on.
Would the Prime Minister condone having a Christmas party?
What's the answer?
I don't know.
It wasn't a party, it was cheese and wine.
Just be clear, it's not.
Is cheese and wine all right?
No.
It was a business meeting.
I'm joking.
This is recorded. This fictional party was a business meeting. And it was not socially distanced.
So what's shocking to me the most out of all of this is that even after the leaked footage of senior staff of 10 Downing Street that is rehearsing for a televised briefing about a party that took place in 10 Downing Street. And when we say, well, what's wrong with that? Well, this party took place, they say, apparently on the 18th of December of 2020, when the government has told us that we are in tier 3 lockdown. So such parties and gatherings are not supposed to be happening. And it said where there is up to about 50 people, anything between 40 to 60 people that have actually taken part in this party. There is no social distancing taking place. So even though we've got the senior staff that are rehearsing this briefing, but you've still got the Prime Minister of UK telling us that it didn't happen, and he's denying it outright.
What I can tell the right honourable gentleman is that all guidance was followed completely during number 10.
Well, I've got the rules that were in place at the time Prime Minister of this party. They're very clear, Mr. Speaker. You must not have a work Christmas lunch or party.
So when I look at that, one of the first things that I put down is that it almost feels like an elite system. It feels like this sense of arrogance that we obviously belong here and then there's everybody else, when that's not how democracy is supposed to be run. And it almost feels like a rule system. When I say a rule system, a system which is more like dictating to the people, and where it's almost a joke. It's almost like, and as you know, what were they doing in that video that's been leaked? They were laughing, and it was a joke to them. So it makes everybody else feel like a joke. So whilst there's that going on, there's this apparent party happening. They're breaking the rules that they've made, but they're enforcing it on everyone else. And that reminds me, just before we go on to that, just reminds me of one of Guru Nanak Dev Ji's lines, saying that asank amar kar jahe jor, that you're by jor enforcing other people your amar, your order, because we know that these rules for other people, if a neighbor called the police because they even thought there was an extra person in from the outside of the restrictions at somebody's house, you had police knocking at people's doors, you had people feeling this sense of anxiety. And what was it that your wife was experiencing at the hospital?
Yeah, my Signy's in the hospital, and A&E senior sister, wards are full, A&E's full, tens of ambulances outside the hospital on the street, having to make difficult decisions on who to look after. So you've got the leaders laughing, and then you've got a pretty serious situation. You know, never mind the social distancing aspect, but just from the compassion aspect, the righteous living aspect, the speaking truth aspect. There's such a difference between the leadership and what's happening on the ground.
So just to make clear, we're not here talking about the actual restrictions themselves. What we're talking about here is the way that the government has gone about it, the way that these senior staff have gone about it, and where there's, like you said, the essence here is compassion. that compassion hasn't been shown, because it's not only that it was a dire situation in hospitals, but we know as well where people weren't allowed to meet with their loved ones, and people were struggling with their mental health, mental well-being, because they've not been able to sit down and have a meal with their families for such a long time. Even people that were dying, they weren't able to go out and meet them. And so it's one rule for one and another for another lot of people. And that's when it brings us back down to the words of Guru Arjan Dev Ji saying to us that avar upade se aap na kare aavad javat janame mare. You meant to help me out there when I get stuck. Yeah. Right, so it's the whole point of having another fellow Gursikh by your side. Yeah. So avar upade se, we're there giving upadesh, teachings to others, aap na kare, but we're not following it ourselves. And that example that gets set, then what happens is it breaks that faith and trust in these people that are in these leading roles. But not just, we're not talking about a leading role just in a business or somewhere. We're talking about where someone that's running the country itself. And that comes down to, when I was thinking about this and I thought, contemplating this through Gurbani, and what came to my mind was the word righteousness kept coming up, the word dharam. When we look at the word dharam, dharam is when you've got self-discipline, when you're trying to live a certain way yourself. And we know that dharam is born out of daya, out of compassion. Guru Nanak Dev Ji says, Taul dharam daya ka poot. So when you're living a life righteously yourself, based on compassion, then you know you're going to do justice in a leading role. But when we look at the people that are in these leading roles, that are running our countries, but haven't got Niji Dharam. Niji Dharam means haven't got that self-dharam, that self-discipline within themselves, and aren't necessarily living righteously. And then when it comes to then having this collectiveness and working together towards righteousness becomes very difficult. And that's why there is no other way really other than the way forward is through compassion. Only through compassion will we have dharam. And that dharam is given to us by a Satguru, by that true Guru. Guru Nanak Dev Ji shows us that way, where Guru Nanak Dev Ji is talking about this and saying, Sharam dharam doi chap khaloe. That when is it that dharam is gone out of our life? When we have no sharam, when we have no shame, when we have no care. And another thing that's important to think about is these things would be ignored. The Prime Minister wouldn't be looking into this. There would be no investigations. Why is there an investigation now? Because they've been caught. So you imagine how many things they get away with. How many lies are we actually told? You know, we think that how many things now, like, so we've got the media telling us that now the government's saying this, they're saying that. How much of that is actually true? And we only come to know of certain things, and they only act on things and bringing people to justice, or if a member has to leave or resign, that only happens because they get caught. So for me, it's a lack of all of this, and we're not having this conversation because we're claiming to be perfect. We all make mistakes, and I think an important part of this is that when that is done, when somebody comes forward and puts their hands up and has that sense of remorse, and I think people will take that with a lot more compassion. But when there's complete outright denial, so dharam is key in all of this. And what else is key is having people that have got dharam, are living a righteous life, and have got these boundaries in their life where they're living by the truth. They are the ones that need to be in leading positions. It's a call of action to an extent to say that we shouldn't shy away of aspiring to reach certain positions within this society. So those that are living by dharam are actually in leading positions, that those that are living by the Khalsa's way, that we have our own, that we've got our own institutions that are set up that become an example for the rest of the world. Whether it be something as simple as whether it be like a GP practice, whether it be a pharmacist, a pharmacy. If they are led, if we start from places like this, if these type of places are led by somebody that is righteous, that's got a dharam, where it's not that sharam dharam do chapkalo that have got no shame of being unrighteous and then laughing about it, but instead somebody that's got a dharam, that has got compassion, that are in those places within this world, then I think we've got somewhat of a chance to build a better world, build a more righteous world, so that the Khalsa can become an example and show the world how it should be done. And I did want to say that, I don't want anyone to think that this is an individual bashing and this is slandering anyone in any form of way. This isn't about that. It's about us to self-reflect more and take somewhat responsibility for us to reflect on how righteous are we in our own individual lives, and if not, what steps can we take towards becoming righteous? Sach boliye, coming to a place of speaking the truth ourselves, take that little step, and then being more righteous in our own lives and creating better systems and becoming better examples